confident that I'll be ready to go. OTA's training camp and absolutely week 1.
Before Trey Lance would begin getting ready to become the 49ers starting quarterback in his second NFL season and try to silence the doubters in his life once again, he was just a hidden gem in a small town in Minnesota. Welcome to Before the Accolades, brought to you by Versace Boy ENT, with your host, the Big Potato. Trey Lance, born May 9, 2000, in the small town of Marshall, Minnesota.
I think just being in southwest Minnesota, kind of, in the middle of nowhere.
Who lives in the middle of nowhere?
Marshall's really a tiny town to a lot of cities, but, in that area, Marshall's the biggest.
Trey grew up playing football, of course.
Thank you, Mommy. I love this. I always wanted to know football.
Baseball and basketball.
I played more basketball than I did football. How the sports work, football is during football season, and basketball, you can play basketball in the summertime, wintertime, whenever. So I played more basketball for sure, but I think, I always knew that football was going to be it for me or what I wanted to do, but I loved basketball as well.
Trey came up playing running back in his youth football days, and even in elementary school, Trey Lance already had doubters that he had to try to prove wrong.
Every year we had to have talks with the boys about how rough they were playing, and that year was no exception. So I had the boys come in right at the end of recess, I think it was, and we had a little talk about how you can't be playing rough like that. You don't have coaches, you don't have padding, you don't have referees, all of that stuff. Then I said, it's not like any of you are ever going to be professional football players. So it's a statement that, yeah, I've remembered all those years for whatever reason. I don't know. But Trey's eyes were the last eyes I looked into after I'd said that. And I was like, ooh, I might regret that one day.
But when you have a supporting system as strong as Trey's, you're not going to let the doubters get into your mind too much, because that supporting system's telling you that you can make it as long as you put that work in. And Trey was blessed to live in a household with his father, Carlton Lance, who taught him the game of football at a young age. Carlton Lance played at Southwest Minnesota University, and he also played for the Saskatchewan Roughriders in the Canadian Football League.
Fortunate, to grow up where I did. And be able to be in an area where, I got coached by my dad a lot. And I don't know if that would have happened growing up in other places. My dad's biggest thing was filming everything. He filmed every practice he was at, every game, every tournament, whatever it was. And then we'd get home, on Sunday night from a tournament in Kansas City or Milwaukee or wherever, and we'd watch the whole thing and just talk through different plays, different, situations where maybe I thought I was playing hard at the time, and watching it on tape, I really wasn't playing as hard as I could have been. That's one of the biggest things and memories that I have, just making sure that we're watching everything.
He would eventually make the switch to quarterback when he was in 9th grade.
9th grade quarterback, Washington High. 9th grade.
I switched to quarterback my freshman year. Is when I started playing quarterback. It's, a situation where I thought I was better than the guy that was playing at the time. So I wanted to give it a shot. My high school coach, thankfully, let me get a shot at it.
Trey, as a 7th and 8th grader, was a running back. Then comes to me going into freshman year that he wants to try quarterback. I said, we let you go wherever position you want. Obviously, after we saw him throw the football and knew his work habits, we kept him at quarterback.
But it really started in 8th grade when Trey's dad, once again, had Trey's best interest in his head and told Trey, they're looking for a middle school quarterback, so why don't you just go ahead and be the backup at least, just so you can go ahead and get your feet wet a little bit, just try it out. His 10th grade year, Trey stuck with playing quarterback, and he was behind a senior, so he didn't see the field until
his sophomore season, our last regular season game, our senior quarterback dislocated an elbow, and we put Trey in.
Young Trey Lance coming in for an injured Thomas Fisher. Play action, looking for the slant pattern, and it's tipped and picked off!
Tips off of our guy's hands and interception, and he loses the game.
After the game, he was on the bench and a little depressed, and I put my arm around him, not knowing what's going to happen in the future. I said, Trey, your best days are coming.
Even though that first play in might not have been the most telling sign of who Trey Lance was going to be, it's all he needed to get his feet wet. Because once he got that spot, Trey Lance ain't never relinquished it. Trey helped lead Marshall High School to its first postseason berth since the 1990s. So it had been a while since Marshall had been to the playoffs. Trey Lance would continue to have success his junior and senior season at Marshall High School. He ended up setting the school record for most career touchdowns with 33. That's total touchdowns, so passing plus rushing. He also led the team to the semifinal round of the playoffs as a junior. Even though he was producing, Trey was still a hidden gem. And I say Trey was a hidden gem because he was not highly recruited as a quarterback out of high school at all. No Power 5 school offered Trey a scholarship to play quarterback, which just seems unbelievable now as we look back. But teams just don't always see the vision, and they didn't see how the game was changing to you need a dynamic quarterback. And what's crazy is Trey Lance wanted to commit to the University of Minnesota, the hometown team. And he probably would have been the best player they've ever had in their school history had they got Trey Lance to play quarterback. In fact, his only FBS Division I scholarship offer to play quarterback came from Boise State.
It was the day before signing day, I think, when they called. And my biggest thing, and I think my dad put this in me, was I didn't want to be someone's second option.
Don't go where they'll accept you and take you. Go where you're wanted so that you could really win. And North Dakota State, they wanted Trey Lance from the jump.
I remember seeing him and going, how did we get him?
Yeah. What do you mean the University of Minnesota doesn't want this kid to play quarterback? What are we missing here?
What? This guy's awesome.
Trey Lance committed to the University of North Dakota State on December 2017. And something that worked out for Trey Lance's favor, Carson Wentz had just got drafted 2nd overall in the 2016 NFL draft. So North Dakota State had a spotlight on them at that time because they're really the premier program in that FCS football level for real. They always win in the championship or contending for it. So Trey Lance went from small town Marshall, Minnesota to small but slightly bigger town of Fargo, North Dakota in 2018 to step on campus at North Dakota State University. And when he got there, it was behind Easton Stick, who's North Dakota State's all-time wins leader. So he wasn't going to unseat him when Easton was in his final season.
He taught me just about everything I know once I got to college, and I tell everyone that my biggest thing, just the way he treated me as a freshman, he didn't have to do that. He went out of his way just so many times to give me an opportunity to get reps or whatever it was. There's countless stories just about how much he did for me.
So Trey Lance, as a freshman, was redshirted, but the NCAA had just enacted a new rule where freshmen could play in 4 games and still keep their red shirt. So similar to when he was a sophomore in high school behind a senior veteran quarterback and he had to wait his turn, but that season he was able to get his feet wet a little bit. He played in 2 games freshman college season and had 2 rushing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown each game. It was a little preview to the dual threat ability Trey Lance has. But even the most optimistic North Dakota State Bison fans couldn't have predicted what Trey would do in his sophomore season, first as the full-time starter. So his sophomore year at North Dakota State, Trey did it all. I'm going to just list off these accomplishments, and I need y'all to just keep up with me. He led North Dakota State to a perfect 16-0 record. They won the national championship game against James Madison. He was the MVP of the national championship game. Trey Lance threw 28 touchdown passes to 0 interceptions that year.
Trey would not even acknowledge it. And every time I said something like, Trey, you didn't have another interception in this game, he's like, oh my gosh, Mom, stop talking about it.
He led the team in rushing with over 1,100 yards and 14 touchdowns. Became the first ever freshman to win the Walter Payton FCS Offensive Player of the Year. That award goes to the best offensive player in the whole FCS. And he was the first ever freshman in his history to win the award. He also won the Jerry Rice Award for the best freshman in the FCS. Trey literally had one of the best, if not the best season in FCS history as a quarterback. You cannot question that. The stats back it up, the accomplishments back it up, the achievements back it up. This is when Trey Lance started going from a hidden gem to an uncut gem. So now he's on all the NFL radars. The draft talk starting to heat up. In 2020, he would only get to play in 1 exhibition game against Central Arkansas. Due to the coronavirus, the FCS had canceled their fall football season. Still had 4 more total touchdowns in that game, but finally threw that first interception. Maybe it's good being an unknown commodity sometimes, because before the draft, the San Francisco Niners would trade away 2 first-round picks and swap another first-round pick with the Miami Dolphins to move up to 3rd overall in the 2021 NFL Draft. And then on April 29, 2021, Trey Lance would be selected 3rd overall by the San Francisco Francisco 49ers to be their QB of the future. But just like every other time in his life being quarterback, Trey Lance would not start in year one. He had to wait and sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo, you know, the guy who took the San Francisco 49ers to a Super Bowl a few years ago. Even though he had to sit and wait, Jimmy G injury prone. So Trey Lance did get his chance to start 2 NFL games in his rookie season. The first start against the Cardinals, it was after he got his feet wet a little bit. The next opportunity he had to start against the Houston Texans, that's when we really seen them flashes and big playability that Trey Lance is going to bring to the San Francisco 49ers offense.
Kyle Shanahan called a playoff-like atmosphere, 16 for 23, 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he spread it around to 8 different receivers. How comfortable did you feel out there?
Yeah, definitely settled in. And it helps me a ton. I just wanted to come in and not try to do too much, just get the ball in, obviously, the playmaker's hands.
He had a deep touchdown to Debo.
He's a playmaker with his legs and his arms, and he can generate a big play, home run play at any moment. That's what I believe Trey Lance is really going to bring to this 49ers offense. As of today, we don't know. As of this recording, Trey Lance hasn't started a game yet in his second season in the NFL, first as the full-time starter for the 49ers. He could be a bust, he could be a star, he could be average. We're gonna see what he ends up being. But your boy, the Big Potato, I am bought in and believe Trey Lance is gonna be a future star. That's all your boy, the Big Potato, got for you. I want y'all to let me know in the comments how successful you think Trey Lance will be in the NFL. Do you think he's the best quarterback in this draft class, or where would you rank him? Let me know who you'd like to see on the next episode before the Accolades. Hit that like, subscribe button for me, please, and I'll see y'all another time. Big Potato, out.